Hi, Church. Pastor Jeff here with another Trinity Check In, and I am at my desk again because I want to share with you more of what's happening at our denomination's General Conference. I have the live stream on my computer monitor here, and what you're looking at is one of the delegates making an argument for or against something. I don't have the audio on, so I don't know what it is. But before the shot goes off, I want you to see something. Notice right there? That would be a John Wesley bobblehead that somebody has placed right next to the microphone, and Susanna Wesley, his mother. So, you know it's a good time at General Conference when that happens, right? So, I want to share with you some of what they're doing because the news is remarkable of what's going on, but I also want to share with you a little bit more about how it works because it really is fascinating. As I said in last week's video, we are, I believe, the only denomination of our size, maybe even the only body of any type of our size, that tries to be democratic globally. That's the bishop, by the way, one of the bishops who's presiding. But part of being a global body like that and trying to be democratic about it makes things very difficult. So in many ways, these sessions are like the United Nations in that they have official languages, they have translators. I know there's one of our Lincoln pastors who is an African, speaks more than one language. He's one of the translators who's there, actually. And the bishop calls out, they start by going to committee. Oh, any United Methodist anywhere can submit a petition, and all of them must be considered. So you can imagine the thousands upon thousands of resolutions that they receive. So they usually begin their work in committee, and the committee group those. They try to sift through them. They let things surface to the top, make sure everything is considered. Then when they come to the plenary sessions, that's where they handle the big ones. So the ones that are easy, they do a vote of what's called a consent calendar, where everything that everybody's going to agree on, there's nothing contentious, nobody particularly wants to remove it from the consent calendar. Then they do one vote to approve all of those at once to help make things go smoothly. However, every single bit of this has to be translated. So you may have noticed the delegates at the microphone are all holding this big, thick blue book. If I understand correctly, they print those daily with translations of everything that's going on. It really is a remarkable thing. I'll show you what the floor looks like. Let me get out of the live stream here. And I'll put this picture full screen so you can see it too. You can see the delegates at their tables. You can see the tables lining the front. The people that are behind the tables in the front are bishops, mostly bishops. There might be some general secretary, other leader types up there as well. They do not have vote. They're there merely to preside. But you can imagine that this room goes on much larger than this. It's very difficult to get a picture of the entire floor of General Conference going on all at once. So, okay, so that said, it's remarkable what they're doing and all that, but what are they doing? That is, of course, the big question this year. In past quadrennium, since they meet every 4 years, there's been all sorts of legislative games that are played, techniques to help manipulate and maneuver how things are working. There's been a lot of the news stories have largely been based on those kind of legislative maneuvers. They've been about vote influencing, especially of foreign delegates, and almost entirely by the conservative wing of the church. And it's been ugly. It has been difficult. It has been emotional to follow General Conference in the past. Well, I am here today to happily report to you that this year is much, much different. Of course, we've had disaffiliations, and we miss many of those who've left, and we wish them the best. However, there is a new atmosphere at General Conference. You can tell it just watching, and you can certainly tell it by the votes. So, as I mentioned last week, there's two big things that everybody's watching for. One is a plan called Regionalization, which is a reorganization of how we operate at the global level that will, it removes some of the baggage from the missionary days of being U.S. dominant, but it also allows every region more control over their own region. And it also is part of the key to loosening things up for LGBTQ inclusion as well. That's rather are complicated. I won't go into it all here. But regionalization passed. It passed easily. Now, we're not done yet because some of it are constitutional amendments that now have to go before every annual conference in the world. Ours is coming up in June, so that will be ratified one after another. However, it was passed so overwhelmingly at General Conference that it seems likely that that process will be smooth. We'll see as we go. The other thing everyone is watching is what would happen with the language for LGBTQ and some of the various restrictions that are there, and are we going to make our church more open? And our delegates had been warning us that it might take more than one General Conference to get it done. Well, guess what? It's done. It was remarkably, well, I can't say it's done. It was remarkable. It's been remarkable. Day after day, they have been repealing various restrictions that were on funding LGBTQ caucus groups, on preventing bishops from ordaining LGBTQ candidates. I kind of don't want to go into the details here because I'm afraid I'll get something wrong and regret it later. But day after day, including even today, they're still at it. Much of that has been repealed. Now, I say we're not done yet because we also need to add protections. It's not just enough to repeal the restriction. We also need to add protections to make sure that nobody is disadvantaged. And I'm sure all of this will come in time, probably after the regionalization is done. But it is so good to see this happening, and I cannot wait until our own annual conference when our delegates are back here at home and they can tell us the stories and tell us what things were like. And I have, if what we're watching is any indication, they are going to tell us that it is a new day for the United Methodist Church. Oh, it's a vote. They all have electronic voters, and they're voting now. Maybe by the time I finish talking, we'll be able to see what happens with calendar item 253 for you following along at home. Anyway, so if any of you are curious, I will leave the links in the email that goes out each week that this video comes in, and you can learn a little more and read some of the details of what's going on. But I want you to know that the United Methodist Church is in very good hands, and it is so good to see a new day and to see the Spirit moving like this. All right, this Sunday is, of course, a big one. We have communion and worship, which, quite frankly, is enough. Sometimes we lose sight of that, but communion is wonderful whenever we do it, and so that will be the centerpiece of all we do. It's also Family Worship Sunday. We'll have our kids with us in worship. If any of you do join us from home or if you're traveling, be sure to have bread and something to drink ready, and when we get to that time of communion, you can be part of that as well as the rest of it. I do want to warn everyone, though, this is marathon week. So if you live north of the marathon route, plan ahead or join us online or whatever it takes to get that done well. If you're running in the marathon, good luck. I hope it goes well. Please tell me. Otherwise, hopefully you're able to make it to church well. And I look forward to seeing you all and having communion with you Sunday. And I look forward to that even more than I look forward to the news coming from General Conference. Be well, church.